everyone, Old School Pokemon here. Today's video, I'm going to be showing you part 1 of a few CGC bulk returns that I've gotten back over the past couple weeks, maybe the past month or so. But anyway, like I said, today's video is going to be part 1. We're going to be showing all of the first edition base set common cards and uncommon cards that I got back from CGC. So we'll go ahead and hop right into it. I'll kind of talk about the cards as we go through everything. So starting things off, we have a CGC Mint 9 first edition base set Charmeleon with the subgrades, which I'll talk about the subgrades a little bit later on. But so yeah, I got the submission back probably about a month ago now. I actually have all of these cards listed within my eBay store. So if you are interested in anything, and you want to take a better look at something, everything is listed within my eBay store, and if you're interested in purchasing anything, just shoot me an email, and we can definitely do better pricing than what I have them listed for on eBay. But yeah, so anyway, these cards, I submitted all these cards to CGC under the bulk service level back in, I believe it was January of 2021, and I just got them back probably the beginning of July 2021. So it took about 6 months to get these cards graded through CGC, which wasn't too bad considering the turnaround times that CGC had stated. They've actually been going down, which is awesome. But yeah, I was happy to get this return back in a semi reasonable amount of time. Hopefully turnaround times will continue to decrease as they hire more and more people and receive. They're probably receiving fewer submissions with the higher prices, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, anyway, super happy to have these cards back. These cards all came from a collection that I purchased back in February or March of 2020. I purchased all of these cards from King Pokemon, Gary from Pawn Stars, and at the time, I actually did a video on purchasing this collection. That was back about a year and a half ago, so if you've been following the channel for a while, you may have caught that video. I purchased right around, I believe it was 1,200 first edition base set common and uncommon cards, majority of which, as you can see here, were really good condition. There were a few in near mint condition, which PSA 7-ish. There were a couple hundred in that condition, which those cards I just set aside and listed individually, ungraded on eBay. And then there were probably less than 100 that were below near mint, meaning excellent, the occasional played condition card. But overall, all the cards within the collection were in really nice condition. I submitted a couple hundred of those cards into PSA back in June of 2020. I actually got those. I've gotten those cards back since. Got them back earlier this year, 2021. And I submitted a couple hundred, what you're seeing right now, into CGC, like I said, back in January of 2021. And then I submitted the final couple hundred to PSA back in March of 2021, right before they did their price increase. So yeah, probably won't see those cards back anytime soon, but that's kind of what happened to that collection. Been selling the ungraded copies. I actually still have a couple listed on eBay, but for the most part, those are all sold out. And then got the remainder of the cards graded, and I'll be selling those as well on eBay. The PSA graded copies have been selling very well. I don't have too many of those left. CGC copies, like I said, I've gotten these all listed on eBay, and they've been selling decently. They haven't been flying off the shelves, which is to be expected. But yeah, I'll kind of get into that in a minute. Another thing I wanted to talk about was how I went about organizing all these cards and kind of listing them on eBay, and then we'll get into actual pricing them. So for organizing everything, I basically, this submission contained first edition base set, Champion's Path, and Hidden Fates. So I broke everything down by the actual set. So I took all the first edition base set cards, put them in one pile, and then I broke everything down by the rarity. So all the uncommons and then all the commons in another pile. Afterwards, I broke everything down by the overall grade. So all the CGC Mint 9s were in one pile, 8 5s were in another pile, and then 8s were in the final pile. I didn't get anything less than an 8, which was awesome. So yeah, afterwards, I then broke everything down numerically. So I took all of the CGC Mint 9 uncommons and then organized them numerically. So Arcanine, Dugong, Dratini, so on and so forth. Or, I'm sorry, Arcanine, Charmeleon, Dugong, Dratini, so on and so forth. And then I did the same thing with the 8.5s and the 8s, and then the same thing with the commons. Afterwards, I broke everything down further by the actual subgrades. So I took all of the first edition base set build cards in Mint 9 that I had, and then organized them by the subgrades. So I put the weakest CGC 9, according to the subgrades, at the front of the pile, and the strongest CGC Mint 9 at the back of the pile. And I basically am just starting with the weakest Mint 9, and then as I took pictures of that, listed that one on eBay. When that one sells, I'll take the next better example, list that one on eBay until we get to the strongest Mint 9 example. That's just kind of how I went about the process. I did that for 2 reasons. Number one, obviously, I want to hold on to the best condition cards for as long as possible. So by selling the weaker 9s first, I'll have the stronger 9s for a little bit longer. So holding the stronger 9s for a little while to see what happens with pricing. And then the second reason why is because why I organized everything by the subgrades was because in some cases I had certain cards, say CGC Mint 9 first edition base set switch with the exact same subgrades. So centering 9, surface 8/5, corners 9, edges 9. I had multiple copies with those exact same subgrades. In cases like that, I actually took both or all 3 or however many the quantity was. I took all those cards and put them into one eBay listing with multiple quantity available. I took a front and back picture of one of the cards and then wrote within my item description that the card purchased would be similar to the one pictured. It would have the exact same subgrades, but the cert number may differ. That's kind of how I went about listing everything. When the subgrades differed, when the overall grade was the same and the subgrades differed, I would only list the one copy, because I feel like you could get in trouble by having different subgrades. If someone comes and purchases, say, this card right here, and I send them something with different subgrades, they might not be happy with that. They might have wanted this exact copy with these exact subgrades. So I feel like you can get in trouble doing that in terms of buyers not being happy and possibly leaving negative feedback. So I wanted to avoid that where possible. So that's kind of why I went ahead and organized everything by the subgrades. Now, when it came to actually pricing all of these cards, being that they are first edition base set Wizards of the Coast era cards, obviously first edition base set, probably the best set, after Shadowless, but probably the best best Wizards of the Coast set, in my personal opinion. But also as an investment standpoint, probably the safest investment, if you will. So when it came to actually pricing these cards, obviously CGC has been around for about a year. So it's actually a little bit over a year now, because I believe they started back in June of 2020, so they've been around for a little bit over a year. But anyway, CGC is still a relatively new company compared to PSA or BGS, where you don't have the amount of cards that are CGC graded. Therefore, you don't have as many listings or as many sales. So pricing on CGC cards is a little bit tough. Some of the cards had a few active listings and a few sales, so those ones weren't too bad. But there were surprisingly a lot of the first edition base commons and uncommons where you didn't have a single sale of a CGC copy in a certain grade. but you may have had an active listing, or in some cases you didn't even have an active listing to go off of. So what I decided to do after researching pricing for a little bit was I decided to price all of my CGC first edition base set commons and uncommons at the PSA pricing. So for example, CGC near mint, mint plus 8.5 lightning energy. I price this card the exact same that I would price a PSA 8.5 lightning energy at. And I know that for the most part, CGC cards don't sell for as much as PSA cards do. So sales are definitely going to be slower because, well, why would someone come along and purchase a CGC near mint, mint 8 for the same price that they could purchase a PSA near mint, mint 8 at? Well, my logic behind that was because I feel that CGC has really strict grading standards, very similar to PSA, and there is no doubt in my mind that if you broke this Doduo out of the case and resubmitted it into PSA, this card right here would receive at least a PSA near mint, mint 8. So the condition in terms of the CGC graded and PSA graded cards, I believe, is very comparable. So my logic is, why would I price a CGC card lower than a PSA card if it's basically the exact same, just a different holder and a different label right here? So that's kind of why I priced everything at the PSA prices. The lower end cards like the CGC 8s, CGC 8.5s, those have been selling decently well because I priced them competitively. I priced them at the lowest buy it now price of a PSA near mint, mint 8 copy, or whatever the grade is. So those have been selling decently well because they are on the cheaper end. Really can't go wrong paying, like, I have the CGC 8 common cards listed for $49.99 or best offer, and I've been accepting best offers of $40, so really can't beat paying $40 for an already graded first edition base set common card. That's a good deal right there. So those have actually been selling well. The CGC 9s have been selling all right. They haven't been selling as good as like PSA 9s. PSA 9s are definitely selling better, but CGC 9s are still selling. I'm selling a few here and there. But that's kind of why I went ahead that's kind of how I actually went ahead and priced everything. Priced everything comparable to PSA pricing, basically the exact same that I would price everything at if it was PSA graded. These cards that I'm showing you right now, that's everything that I've listed on eBay. These are the cards in my back stock. So for example, you've already seen a first edition base set Machamp. These are ones that are going to have different subgrades, and as I go through the Machamps, they're going to get better and better. So for example, this one right here, you have 99985, another 99985, and then we have one more, or we might have a couple more. Okay, so the last one. So now we have a 85999. So for example, I said that this one on the left was a stronger 9 than this one on the right because of these subgrades. So I said edges was more important than centering, which that could differ from person to person. But in my personal opinion, edges is more so important than the actual centering. So I considered this copy right here to be a weaker 9 than this copy right here. So that's kind of how I went ahead and organized all of these cards. But yeah, so what you're seeing right now is everything in the back stock. So basically, I already have, for example, a CGC Mint 9 Poliwhirl with different subgrades listed on eBay. So once that one sells, this next one will go up on eBay. But yeah, there's that. And like I was saying with the pricing of these cards, I priced them the same as what I would PSA cards, and the lower grades have been selling well. Higher grades have been selling all right. I sold a couple of them. They're definitely going to be slow movers, but being that they are first edition base set, being that they are Wizards of the Coast era, I really don't mind holding on to them if I have to, for the long term. If they don't sell for what I want to get out of them, it's not a huge deal for me, because I don't mind holding on to them, because I actually do enjoy these cards, and if I have to keep looking at them, that's fine with me. Whereas I'll talk about this further when I get into my my Champion's Path and Hidden Fates portion of the submission, those types of cards I priced a little bit differently, where I didn't add that kind of premium to them, because I'm really not I don't have that connection to the modern cards I do with the Wizards of the Coast cards, so really don't want to be holding on to those for the long term. I'd rather get rid of those cards so I can use that money to purchase other collections and do other things with. So with the modern cards, there's kind of a different logic to it, to pricing and listing those cards, which I'll get into when we actually do that video. But for now, this video is just involving all of the first edition base set commons and uncommons, which I don't have an exact count of them, but there are a lot of them. We're at the last stack right here. So we got a few more, and then this video will be over with. One other thing I did want to talk about was the subgrades. So we'll talk about that while we go through these last few cards. As you saw within this whole video, all of these cards do have the subgrades, and all but one of my CGC submissions contain these subgrades. In my opinion, if you're going to be grading through CGC, the subgrades kind of set CGC apart from PSA. CGC and BGS both offer subgrades, whereas PSA does not offer subgrades. So in my opinion, if you're going to grade through CGC, you really need to take full advantage of their services and select these subgrades. That's my personal opinion. That's always been my personal opinion. But I feel like people appreciate the subgrades where they can see, okay, why did this card receive a near mint plus 8.5? Okay, well, the centering's a little bit off, so we'll take a look at the centering. Okay, the centering's a little bit off. Surface is a little bit lesser than a mint condition copy. Surface is a little bit tough to see because it isn't a case, but you can kind of get an idea on why. Corners are an 8, so there is some issue with the corners. We'll take a look at the corners, and as you can see, you got the whiteness on the corners, and then same thing with the edges. So you can kind of justify the actual grade using the subgrades, which I really personally enjoy. And I think other people also enjoy that. The other thing is if you see two CGC graded cards on eBay, they're both the exact same card, the exact same grade. One has the subgrades, one does not have the subgrades. They're both priced at the exact same price. I feel like you'd purchase the one with the subgrades, or I feel like people would purchase the one with the subgrades versus the one without the subgrades, everything else being the same. Just because it makes the case, or makes the label look a lot better without that huge blank space. And like I was saying earlier, you can kind of justify the overall grade, which I think is really nice. I really do enjoy the subgrades. Now, that's the kind of the pros with CGC and the subgrades. The biggest con for subgrades with CGC is the pricing. So when I submitted these cards, this was back in January, so this was under the old pricing that CGC had. I believe I paid with my discount, because I get 15% off with my membership discount. So with my discount, I believe I was paying $7.20 for the actual grading, and then another $4-ish, maybe $3-4 for the actual subgrades. I forget the exact cost, but it wasn't too bad. It was around $10 per card to get these graded for the actual grading with the subgrades. It was around $10 per card. Nowadays it's a lot more expensive. It's $15 per card without any discount applied, and then it's an additional, I want to say like $8 to $10 for the subgrades. So the subgrades is like more than half the cost of grading. Subgrades nowadays are really expensive with the new pricing. I should have looked up what the exact pricing was so I could talk about it, but I didn't. But I know subgrades are really expensive now, which which kind of turns people off from getting the subgrades, especially on these bulk type submissions where the cards aren't worth a whole lot. The additional cost of the subgrades can definitely hurt your margin when you go ahead and resell it. So it becomes really tough whether or not to have the subgrades or not have the subgrades. In my opinion, I think it's still definitely worthwhile, even though it is a more expensive cost. I think I am still going to do it on everything Wizards of the Coast era. However, when it comes to modern, I think I'm going to stop doing the subgrades on modern cards when you have like the ultra rares, just with the ultra rares. Everything above ultra rare, so the full arts and so on, I will do the subgrades with, but the ultra rares, where the pricing on those cards is so cheap, it's like $20 per card, $25 per card for a 9. I think I'll probably hold off on the subgrades on those. But yeah, so that's kind of my thought process on the subgrades. Like I said, I do have one submission that I submitted without subgrades, and that was because it was a much larger submission. It was back when CGC announced that they were going to be raising their prices, and I wanted to get a big submission off to them before they actually raised their prices. So I ended up submitting, I was deciding between either submitting a good amount of cards and having them graded with the subgrades, or instead of getting the subgrades, I could submit more cards. So in the end, I decided to do that with that one submission. I ended up submitting, I want to say it was like 1,700 cards into CGC. This was back in, I believe it was March, maybe. I think it was March anywhere, right before their price increase. But yeah, so instead of doing the subgrades, I elected to use that money that I would have to pay for the subgrades, use that money to submit more cards. So I elected to submit more cards just for grading without the subgrades, and I'm already kind of regretting that decision. We'll see what happens going forward once I actually receive those cards back in the mail, but I'm kind of regretting that decision. Every submission before that and after that has included the subgrades, and I think I do really like the subgrades, and I'll continue getting the subgrades going forward. But it's definitely tough with the pricing and how expensive subgrades are. I wish they would do something about that. But anyway, this video has definitely gone on for long enough. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.